I need that gamesmanship, I think, this week to go out the fucking window. Like, I want to see you open it up and be like, this is how we're going to approach Oregon. This is how we're going to approach the rest of the schedule moving forward. I feel bad for Villanova.
I think no matter what the game looks like, I think our starters need to play 3 quarters. I don't care if we're up 50-0 at halftime.
Oregon doesn't seem to have skipped a beat. You know, you can talk about all the NIL and all that shit, but Oregon's always had athletes. Their quarterback scares me. Very dynamic playmaker. We got kind of like a microcosm test of that with the kid at FIU, who I think was a really good playmaker as well, but this guy's got different cats outside.
Like, I still remember the freaking, even in my third whiteout, fourth whiteout, I still remember the butterflies at outfield walking out of that tunnel, and the air in Beaver at that time, 7:30 at night. I mean, it is just different.
Quarterback sneak right side, touchdown, Penn State!
Whoa! Who knew I would make it this far?
All right, guys. Back again this week. Slightly different cadence, feeling, vibe coming off of this weekend. I think I could speak for the vast majority of Nittany Nation with that. But Jason and I are back here with another episode of The Pocket. Just want to remind you guys, this is made possible by our friends at Family Clothesline, Wise Markets, handful of others who are participating. So make sure you guys check them out whenever you can, get ready for your game day needs, so forth and so on. But Jay, I have a couple, people might call them cop-outs, but when I look at kind of the big picture of this game and how it went, I don't have as much of an overreaction, I think, as most people are. But where do you stand on this equation, right? Like, at the end of the day, I think the coaches, the players, they made it very evident that it wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
And I kind of want to continue to drill down into that, but just first impression takeaways.
Yeah, I mean, I just think it was a slow start overall. I thought the defense played well. I thought a guy like Chaz Coleman really stood out to me at the DN position. Well, we can get into players kind of later, just more of an overall view. But, I mean, if you look around the college football landscape, I think it's worth to have the conversation of, this is a new day and age. We're in the NIL age. You got a lot of top guys from bigger schools now going to these FIUs, these Nevadas, these Villanovas, where they can get some money and get playtime. I just think that the gap is not as wide as it used to be pre-NIL era. And, you look at some teams that lost this week, and you look at Florida, losing to South Florida. You look at, Troy beating Clemson 16-0 at halftime. It's just, we're at a different age now. There's no excuse. And at the same time, I'm also not overreacting. We won the game 34-0 at the end of the day. I didn't feel like Drew was in a rhythm at all game. I don't know if that was due to play calling. I don't know. I just don't know. But there are a few revelations that definitely came out of this game. Chaz Coleman needs to be a starter. There's no question. I thought he looked better than Zariah Fisher in this game. And I just think there's so much potential there as a freshman that this guy's going to be a bona fide star. He's 250 pounds. He looks like he's skinny. He could probably still put on weight. I think he looks like a college Chandler Jones is what he can be. That's a guy who was a dominant player. I played against him quite a few times in my career in the league. That's how he moves. That's how he looks. He's got that patented spin move already down packed. So that was a positive. But like I said, not overreacting. I just feel like next week going into Villanova, this should be a game that we're going into Oregon feeling really, really good about ourselves with wrinkles all ironed out, etc. I think Katron should be our lead back. I think he's the guy. I think Nick Singleton should be more of the switch-up guy than a true 1A, 1B. I think Katron's really starting to separate himself from that standpoint. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, you dunked a lot there. I mean, I think I was going to just start as simple as like, man, fucking noon kickoff, dreary day. Like, I think the energy and all that, I think there's something to that. Just try to think back as a player, like the games that I really had to,
Akron, Penn State.
Yeah, but people think it's so easy to like, oh, you're playing football, like you're going to get up, like, and yeah, everyone's got this banner of like every game's a great opportunity, but like, dude, noon games sucked. Like getting ready for noon games mentally, like I had some warfare in the mornings when I was taking my shower before I went down to breakfast, where I'm like, it's game day, like let's go 5:30 in the morning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, I think there's definitely a little bit to that. To FIU's credit, they came out swinging, and I thought they had the athletes. And you mentioned this during our pregame show about just the athletes there, right? Like they're not going to have a problem athletically being able to make some plays and move the football.
Yeah.
And even on the defensive side of the ball, present some issues for us. But I just thought that the regression from the consistency, right? And again, maybe it's the weather, maybe it's the side of the bed they rolled out of. These are kids still. You know what I mean? I know there's money and all this stuff thrown into it, but it is college football. They are kids still. Maybe they rolled out the wrong side of the bed, but I just didn't think the offense looked as crisp and clean. And I don't think it was due to, I think the play calling got focused on because of the lack of execution, if that makes sense. And it just didn't look as attentive to detail on that side of the football. Now, to your point, I thought the defense looked really, really good. Definitely an expectation and a bar set there, and they were able to carry that week 1 to week 2. But offensively, I think it was a step back, right? And then they showed the flash of being able to dust it off, come out after halftime, look like a functioning group of football players, and eventually start pulling away there. But for me, it's very easy to overreact. To your point, there's teams that struggled. There's teams that lost. People don't want to hear it, but hey, we got through it. We won it. On to the next one. But what I think the picture that you and I painted about like these first 3 games of this season and kind of where we need to be, I think we have to have an identity by the end of this Villanova game, and we have to have some type of rhythm, right? So I think we did a really good job setting the tone week 1 against Nevada.
Good.
I thought this was kind of like, meh, right? Missed opportunity. And I really just challenge, the team for whatever reason, or for me, like I would challenge my guys to like this week, like it's like standard is now here. This is the season. Like from a coaching staff standpoint, I'd be like, all right, like 2s, 3s, like, if we're up 66-0, like yes, but like until we're absolute throttle fest, none of you guys are touching the ball, like touching the field. We're getting our ones, we're getting our guys, we're getting what our shape and who our warriors going into the meat of our schedule look like. They're getting ready. So overreactions, all the other stuff that goes into this, I think like great opportunity, check the box, showed some grit, so it showed some stuff that you can like rely on. Missed opportunity in some other areas, but at the end of the day, it's a win. It's a lot easier to continue to build off of that, Yeah,
I mean, 100%. We got to be clicking by Oregon. I mean, we got to be. This has kind of been a concern of mine going into the season when I looked at the schedule, of feeling like, are we going to be prepared enough after those first 3 games? Like, it would have been great. Obviously Ohio State went and scheduled a Texas game. I'm not necessarily saying we needed to schedule Michigan early, but it would be nice to have a Northwestern or an Indiana early in the year to kind of have a better gauge of where we're at on more even competition than what we've been playing. And it'll depend on how we look in week 3, going into the bye week, but it does worry me or concern me just a bit. I don't want Oregon to feel like a punch in the face that we're not ready for. That's what I don't want to happen. I felt like there were some run fit issues too, where against an Ohio State running back and an Oregon running back might have been house calls. That was concerning, things of that nature. It's not like it was just, second level comes in and made a guy miss, and he's off to the races. Kind of like there were a couple of times we just got straight up gashed or schemed on defense, which I'd also like to see cleaned up. But yeah, I just schedule wise, I hope that we are ready to go and where we need to be going into Oregon. Because the last thing we need is one early loss, and then the Ohio State game becomes absolutely everything for us to reach our potential or reach our goals. And you know how that story goes.
Yeah, it becomes a function of media and outside noise and pressure. And to your point, you don't want to have to deal with that shit. So I'm thinking, for me, the good thing about this Oregon game is they're on a pretty good heater. I mean, they're playing really good ball. I've gotten the chance to peek and watch it. Their quarterback has stepped in, and he's an explosive player.
Not say more. Yep.
But we have the advantage of they're coming into something that they haven't ever stepped into before, which you and I both know the power of a 7:30 kick, whiteout, and what that is going to present. Like there's definitely a shock and awe factor in that.
No doubt.
So I think what you're getting at is like, as confident as we can be, we want to be stepping into that game and from like internally, like how we're going to attack these guys, what we're going to be, and how we're going to do that. And I think like the gamesmanship, which when I look at some of the storylines, like poor offensive line play or inconsistency, and we've been big on that group, and I still am. It is what it is, right? Like you can't make people like them. And it just doesn't come around that often. So in terms of size and like physical traits, so I think it's just more about scheme and gelling. And then from like an offensive scheme standpoint, like creativity, starting to really start blend some of these principal foundational concepts that we have within our scheme from a run game and a pass game standpoint into now more creative and explosive and window dressing and all that shit. Like I don't want that. And I know that I think that's what's been happening the first 2 weeks from that standpoint is like, there's been some holding and there's been some showing and some flashing, but like, this is like probably our 5th or 6th play out of this concept that we really like, but we're just going to throw the concept, Right. I need that gamesmanship, I think, this week to go out the fucking window. Like I want to see you open it up and be like, this is how we're going to approach Oregon. This is how we're going to approach the rest of the schedule moving forward. So like, I feel bad for Villanova because I think that's going to be the case.
We're going to tear off the reins here. I mean, but I'm not saying we got to go and hang 70 on Villanova for me to feel good about this team. Even if it was a 35-0, 40-0 game, but it was just cleaner. It was disappointing to see how out of rhythm I felt Drew was at some points. Like a couple of the throws felt like they were his first throw of the game when they weren't. Do you know what I mean by that?
I know. I mean, it's crazy because when you, like I said, when I watched him last week, it was just like surgical from the jump.
Boom, back to back.
He had some of the same throws this week, and then he missed some stuff that like he shouldn't have missed, and that like
that we don't see.
Like that's gonna happen though, bro. Like these kids aren't robots. Like that's gonna happen. I think probably the biggest takeaway from my perspective, I guess we can get right into it. It's just like at the end of the day, because I struggle with this as a player, like people are gonna over evaluate, and I was listening to the broadcast the whole time, and I went back and listened to it, like. They talked about his body language and all this other shit. And it's like, oh, it was poor. It was not good. It was great. Like people are going to evaluate it differently, right? Like, I would just much rather Drew, like do whatever the hell he has to do, whether it's be really, really upset or like not upset at all and really calm, but to like get going. Right. Yeah. Because I feel like everyone's made that such a storyline too. And I know he hears it. Like I've sat in those shoes, like you hear everything. I just wonder how much like that played into it too, because there is an element to that. Yeah. Because it just looked like he needed to go into that locker room and do whatever he did at halftime to like center back in and refocus and get to going what he wanted to get going. But like even just that simple stuff, like that body language stuff, whichever way it needs to go, like just be whatever you are and whatever makes you go and don't think about anything else. Cause I think that, that's something you start thinking about, especially when you hear it all the time, even subliminally, like, what do I look like? Like, how do I, and people are pointing to you like, he didn't take his helmet off when he came off the sideline this time. You know what I mean? It's like crazy shit like that. Like, it's like, I didn't want to take my fucking helmet off, bro. Like, you know what I mean? It's like,
it's a tough position to be into. Obviously, there's all eyes on Drew. He's the head quarterback at Penn State. All eyes are on him, not even just from a fan perspective, but just teammates. Your quarterback's aura and mood and body language all, carry something when it comes to the team. So, it's a tough position to be in, regardless. Obviously, you were in it. Trace was in it. Clifford was in it. You guys all, know about that. And I think Drew has handled himself tremendously when it comes to those things, albeit for all I've seen throughout his career. So it's not anything to worry about or, it's really worth talking about. I think it's at this point, like you mentioned, it's just him doing what you got to do to be who we know you are and who you can be and to take another step that we know you got in the tank.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it was just something as simple as like just stacking little wins. Like you saw it when he kind of came out in the second half. Like, I mean, dude, they were running the same little RPO, like horizontal stretch, kick it to the flat. Luke Reynolds just get fed. Yeah. But like it's something that's even super simple. Like see a completion, stack it. Like that's a win. And that's small little momentum.
Yeah.
So, he just really wasn't able to find that early. And I don't know if it was part scheme. I'd have to like look a little bit more in depth. Like if it was just that he just missed, right? And you just missed and you have total control over that. So, and again, like, it's not like this overreaction, like, oh, he can't be any, like, he's good. He played well. Like there's going to be chances where it's going to be, much more dynamic, but when you're kind of asked to do the monotony of the offense, and that's why I went back to this week, I kind of want to see them like take the rev limiter off. And I
think a lot of that stuff's going to come out on third down from a standpoint of us saying we're going to take the reins off and kind of open the playbook and be who we are. I think we've struggled a bit on third down over the first couple days. First couple games, and then just red zone. I think we're trading too many field goals. Trading too many touchdowns for field goals. That I think that we can get in that end zone. Obviously, windows are tighter, things happen faster, but all that comes down to execution. I just think overall we could be better. I thought we ran the ball a bit better the other day. I think even on Nick's runs where he got stopped, I felt like if K-Tron was in, there would have been a little bit more meat on the bone there. I've talked about Nick, the straight line speed that he has, which is rare and things of that nature, but obviously – a bit of difficulties or struggles in the short area quickness and in the, making guys miss department in open space, which I'm sure he works on and will continue to work on. But I mean, that's K-Tron's forte.
Yeah.
I think K-Tron had 144 yards on the ground. Obviously, he popped that one for about 60 or 65, which was good to see, a game breaker out of K-Tron. We don't really see him bust many 50-plussers. So that was kind of a credit to what he's done in the offseason. Everyone's been talking about his transformed body and him getting faster, and it's cool to see that, translate on the offensive side of the ball into bigger, chunkier, more explosive plays. And I just think we could have more chunk and more explosive plays in general. Even Pena's, that little 10-yard hitch route he caught, he broke a tackle, got another 12 or 13 after that. We need more of those plays. It's not going to be crazy, schemed up, over routes that we're hitting for 35, 40 yards. It's not always going to be, those type of plays, but just also our playmakers being more dynamic, putting them in positions where they can be, more dynamic. But I think that's all going to grow. I don't think the panic alarms need to be on or anything of that nature. I think we'll be just fine.
Yeah, I don't think it's even anything close. But 3 for 12 on third down is something you have total control over. Not going to get it done.
Gotta be better.
Not going to get it done. So, and then to your point, I think the red zone stuff is, especially with the plethora of weapons we have that can create those mismatches. I mean, it, like thinking about red zone, even just the backs, right? Like Nick as a receiver in the red zone is a really good option because he's going to be matched up against linebackers underneath with those catch run type of opportunities. Our tight ends, I know Khalil Dinkins got the touchdown early in the game, but And I thought that was a great scheme. But just being able to get a little more creative with those guys, I think is going to be really cool. And something that we have to do. But yeah, I mean, overall, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, it's not a panic button thing. Like, there's shit that obviously we'd want to see cleaned up, and we hope to see cleaned up in the relatively near future, especially just looking at the big picture and peeling back the onion and really dissecting what's to come and matching the production and the product with the expectations and the goals. I think that this team has already set forth. And it was a miss, right? And I think, like I said, at the beginning of all this, you heard the coaching staff, you heard the team, like they've acknowledged that. We still are unscathed. We walked out of there with a win, and it was relatively dominant in fashion outside that, shooting ourselves in our own foot from an execution standpoint. So I know we kind of hit on it, but like, what are your big things looking at this week? Or maybe we talk a little bit more. Yeah, fuck that. Let's talk a little bit more about the defensive side of the ball, because I thought that was really impressive. Offense put us in some bad situations on fourth down turnovers early in the game and stuff like that. And our defense was able to really, and even like you said, when they did get gashed, like you saw guys like Zaki Wheatley really pop in making a couple back-to-back touchdown saving plays when FIU had momentum. One with a great open field tackle, the other with like textbook coverage after he did get beat and recovered and push that ball out on that like deeper V out route. Like I like your Jimmies and Joes on that side of the ball look really good. And they're starting to really mesh and form into something that I think is going to be special once again.
Yeah, I mean, I think our DBs are really, really solid players. We got some sticky guys. You know, AJ's real sticky on that side, man. I think he's having a great year so far. It's interesting to see how little a PT Dom DeLuca has gotten this year. Like, it seems very solid that, you know, Jim likes Amari Campbell and likes Tony Rojas, and those are kind of the guys right now. They both had, I think, 6 tackles apiece in this last game, probably like 6 solos, three assisted tackles. But I think they're playing pretty solid. I think they're starting to gel together. I see them communicating more and more. I'm surprised that Dom isn't playing a bit more. Shout out to Dom, blocked punt, huge. That's a guy who, and that's what I love about Dom so much, is like, that's a guy who, no matter what, he's going to find a way to impact the game. And like, those are the type of players that you want on your team. He never complains. You know, obviously he's a guy who he wants to be out there starting on defense. You know, he's not, but he's like, look, I made my way making plays on special teams and being this guy. I'm not too good for it now that I've seen a significant amount of time on defense. He'll go out there, punt return goes, and gets a blank, which is a huge play for us. So credit to Dom DeLuca, because that's the right mindset. And the fact that he still went out there and affected the game in a huge way says a lot about him. I think Chaz is coming along, man. I think he's coming along faster than we think. This is a guy who has not had a lot of reps. I don't even believe he practiced much in the spring. So I expect his strides during the season to be bigger and bigger, because he's growing week to week. I thought Zariah looked all right, but Chaz is just more dynamic, man. I mean, he's just more dynamic. He is one of those, I hate to say the Abdul and the Micahs, but just he's looking like the next one, the next great Penn State rusher. I don't want to put him in any category of specific skill set or, what exactly he is, because he's fairly new. We're only week 2 of this deal with him, as a true freshman. But this guy's talented.
I think the nice thing about that, Jay, is that, like you mentioned, like more dynamic than right, but we got guys who play ball, right? So maybe the benefit I think Jim Knowles has with that room specifically is that I think you're going to be able to put Chaz in situations where his floor is protected in terms of the repercussions of an MA or just trying too hard or less discipline, right? So you've put him in situations now where you're mitigating the risk in terms of like the impact he ultimately has in the game, but you're also maximizing the impact in terms of what he does. So you can put him in situations to be successful, I guess is what I'm saying, in a very complex way. But like, he's going to be able to be inserted and make an impact and continue to grow in stride and have opportunities to make mistakes and also have opportunities to make significant momentum swinging plays without having to really worry about putting him in situations that could crush his confidence or be a detriment to the football team because of his lack of experience and understanding of the big
100%. That's a great way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, that comes down to coaching decisions and being smart about it. And those are the little, intricacies and stuff that when it comes to development and growth of young players that, have it, they have that talent. They have the ability to impact right now, but obviously you don't want to stunt growth. You don't want their inexperience to, kill you. We're not giving him too much, We're giving him just the right amount that he can chew on for right now, and that's a good thing. He's going to continue to grow. I thought he was the bright spot on the defense yesterday, and then just over on an overall picture, man. One thing that I'm loving is that we're churning out turnovers. We're finding a way to get turnovers. Alonzo Ford, that's 2 back-to-back weeks of big man INTs. It was a terrible throw, but I mean, he was there, made the play. And that's a good thing. We had a turnover on downs as well, got it the good old fashioned way. And then, Chaz Coleman comes up with a big strip sack and we get that ball. So we're finding ways to impact the game defensively. And those are big momentum swingers. So I think that is a fat positive out of the defense to get 3 turnovers in back-to-back weeks, which I believe is probably our goal. And it's most defenses' goals to get 2 or 3 takeaways in a game. So
our interior D-line is leading our team in interceptions this year.
Yeah.
Pretty nuts.
Hanging in Lonzo, man. Yeah, how about it?
Top of the list.
I don't think anybody had that working up in Vegas.
That's wild. But that is cool. And that I think that's the thing. Like, our secondary really hasn't even had a chance to start making impacts. And, we got guys out there that can. So it's going to be really cool to see all that when you got disruptive production coming from all 3 levels of your defense. That's a good point. But yeah, man, I'm fired up. Now let's kind of take this into what we focus in, really shaving in, because we were kind of all over the place at the beginning. But really what we want to see out of Villanova here. And then let's talk about the dynamic of the bye week. If we see ultimately what we want to see against Nova, and then let's dive into Oregon a little bit to finish this up.
Yeah.
So what do you got? Like, if you're going to carve into this, like with Villanova, thought processes,
I think no matter what the game looks like, I think our starters need to play 3 quarters.
At least.
Yeah, at least. Regardless of what it looks like. I don't care if we're up 50-0 at halftime. I think 3 quarters worth of reps. Because at the end of the day, we have a bye week. We can stretch this thing. If they want to play into the 4th quarter, fine. I have no issues. We've got a bye week and I have to be able to rest up. If guys get a little bit dinged up, we have time. But I just think we need more reps, more game, live, bullets, flying reps, because those are obviously as valuable as can be. And I just think overall, I would want to leave out of this game with a level of confidence that has us feeling real good going into that Oregon game. I felt like if Oregon was next week, the feeling in our stomach isn't exactly what I want it to be going into Oregon right now. And I think we can achieve that after next week, after this Villanova game, and feel like, okay, wrinkles are ironed out. We're feeling good. We're rolling. Shit's exactly where it's supposed to be. Because I don't think we've achieved that feeling just yet.
Yeah. Dive into why you want these starters to play longer, too, because I think that's a great point.
Yeah, I mean, I think you just have to also understand, as much as it is, a senior-led team or older guys, like, they haven't played with each other for very long. Like I said, NIL era, we've got a lot of transfers, the receivers, Ross, Hudson, Pena. I mean, the O-line isn't as gelled as maybe we thought they'd be coming into this season. Drew's still gaining chemistry, and although it's good, like we've said, it's not good enough just yet. Reynolds had a day. Dinkins had a couple of nice plays. Get those guys more reps. That's really all it is. More muscle memory, more more tread on the tires and make us feel real good, make us feel as battle tested as possible going into that game. And then, like you said, just set a standard when it comes to mental assignments, a standard when it comes to the way we play, the way we pursue the ball. One last final push of the fundamentals and who we're going to be from an identity standpoint. Guys like Amari Campbell, one more game next to Rojas is going to serve the two of them well. All of those kinds of things. I just think it's important because those live reps are as valuable as can be.
Yeah, that's great. I think, like I said, for me, and I'll keep hammering this, like, I just kind of want the gamesmanship because I've been seeing a lot of that. Even the 2-point play throwback to the offensive lineman.
Yeah,
Shelton. Yeah, like great, like awesome. But I feel like that's gamesmanship. Like, as awesome and creative as that was, like, I know they put that out there because they want Oregon or the next Big Ten matchup to prepare for it. Waste 3 reps in your special teams or short yardage, goal line, red zone, short area red zone with that card, because they're like, I just kind of want the gamesmanship to go out, and I want this to be like, again, like that last rehearsal before the big show. Like, you're not, it doesn't feel like you're trying to hide anything. I want like a feel of like a spring game script out of here.
Yeah, the preseason over. You want this to feel like the true week one.
Yeah, like I want this to like roll out and go.
Yeah.
If I see that, I'm going to feel really good. I thought we kind of did that a little bit in the second half against FIU because we kind of had to.
Yeah.
I just don't think the whole program was prepared to do that fast.
Yeah.
So if I see that this week, I think we're going to see, from a result standpoint, what we want to see. Like, that scoreboard's the Lions going to be doing a lot of push-ups, and that scoreboard's going to be heavy.
Yep.
And then, to your point, I think that kind of solves that feeling going into it. Right now, it's like, sweet, an extra week of rest, recovery, all that stuff, making sure the body's firing on all cylinders, and then an extra week of preparation in terms of really being able to scheme up and game plan some things. But I think if they do that, everything else is going to take care of itself. Third down efficiency is going to take care of itself. The run game is going to take care of itself. Protection is going to take care of itself, because you're not just doing basic shit. Your protection, you're moving the spot a little bit. You're adding a little bit more of that element of play action and marrying it with your run concepts, which subsequently is going to make the offensive line job easier, Drew's job easier, the ripple effect, right? So the butterfly effect. So I just that's like it's time. Like, it's time, and I'm fired up for it. Like, I hope that it happens, and when that does happen, I'll feel really good about this. Now, let's dive into that, dude. I mean, how do you feel about a bye week before a test like this so early in the season? Is there a rhythmatic disruption? Do you think that there's a benefit to it?
I've thought about it. I've thought about the rhythmatic disruption. That's definitely one of the first thoughts that comes to my mind. But at the same time, I also look at the schedule and those first 3 games and kind of taking it back internally and getting just a ton of good on good reps is also an opportunity that you can take advantage of. I think at the end of the day, that's how you got to look at it, no matter what, as an opportunity to take advantage of. And, if they do that the right way in practice, get a ton of good on good work, get more chemistry and get all that, types of things handled, be able to slow things down at times, maybe concepts that weren't executed at their highest level, give you time to slow those things down in practice and really get a deeper understanding of maybe what went wrong in a game, or maybe a look that we didn't see in practice that we got that we could learn from. Just iron all those little details out, I think could be beneficial for us. But that's how we got to look at it. We got to look at it as an opportunity. We're still early in the season. We don't have any, big injuries, so far. This is an opportunity to come out of this week feeling like we got better, much so rather than we needed the rest.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. Like, again, I like it. Like, as a player, I always kind of feel, thinking back to the 2 bowl games that I did get to play in, like, obviously much more elongated than 1 week, but I feel like you really do get to hone in on certain things. And ultimately, it's like anything, more preparation, more confidence in what you're doing, better the product is, period. So I think it's going to bode really well. Obviously, Oregon has an opportunity to really continue to carry this tear. I mean, because I made probably one of the worst takes of all mankind in the pregame show, talking about Mike Gundy giving these Ducks a little bit of a scare here, and they just proceeded to absolutely thrash them. That's just my ignorance, you know. Sucker for a good personality and a head coach, I guess. But Oregon doesn't seem to have skipped a beat. You know, you could talk about all the NIL and all that shit, but Oregon's always had athletes.
Talking about their unlimited NIL?
Yeah. But I mean, you can say what you want to say, right? Like, cool, it is what it is. But I think for me, like, their quarterback scares me. Very dynamic playmaker. We got kind of like a microcosm test of that with the kid at FIU, who I think was a really good playmaker as well. But this guy's got different cats outside and different cats up front.
They got a 5-star receiver
behind him. So it's an element that's like is really hard to account for.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a 5-star receiver, DeCorian Moore, who's like a little bit taller version of Tez Johnson and even faster. 5-star, number 1 wide receiver in that class. He's already making an impact early for that team. So that is definitely a guy to watch. I'm very sure AJ Harris will be matched up on him. But they present problems. They definitely present problems. I just don't want this to be one of those games that we go into and, you know, maybe we lose a close game and we have things to learn from, and then we do learn. But I just want to, there's going to be things we got to learn from. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be all of those things. But let's come out on the right side of the coin and still have those things instead of coming out on the wrong side of the coin, having those things to, you know, let it be like, oh, yeah, we won the game, but there's still X, Y, and Z that we need to get better. We need to correct on film. That's how I feel about that game.
Yeah. I think here's the reality of the situation. And I'm going to kind of like broad stroke this, and we can get into a couple different examples. But when you look at like college football the first few weeks, there's certain teams and programs that have come in with the expectation and have played up to those standards, right? I think from a record standpoint, we are one of those teams. From a product standpoint, probably middle. I mean, look at LSU. I mean, LSU struggle with, was it Louisiana Monroe or La Tech?
Yeah.
87-3 or something like that.
Yeah.
Struggle, whatever you want to call that. Number 3 team in the country. I thought, going back to week 1, I thought Ohio State and Texas, for as big of a matchup as that was, I thought it was a very sloppy football game. Oregon's just this team that was sitting middle of the top 10, 7, 6, 5, somewhere in there, and they're going to kind of just hover there, right? But that's a team that has left no doubt up until this point.
Yeah.
Which I think you're getting at is like a really good position to be in. And I think Penn State has kind of, with its consistency over Coach James Franklin's tenure there, I haven't seen them with that attitude consistently, like you said, like coming out on that other side of the coin, like with corrections against these matchups. So, like, I think it's going to have to come from the locker room this year, and they're going to have to like approach this game as the flat out favorites. And like, we are the number 2 team in the country, and we have been picked to win the national championship this year by many, many, many outlets. So like, this is the number 6 team in the country coming into our house. Like, easy day. You know what I mean? And I think that's like, you could talk about standard and program standard and cultural expectations and all that fluff, but these guys just have to kind of, I want to feel it like pregame warmups when I'm standing on that sideline on the 27th. like I want to feel that it's like
Energy need to be different.
Yeah,
Energy needs to be different.
Like there needs to be a different laser focus. There needs to be guys having more like. I want to see that. If I see that, I'm going to feel really good about it. I'm feeling really good about everything.
Yep.
It's hard to do that against the games that we have right now.
Yeah.
What?
That's easy to do on a 7:30 whiteout game against the number 6 team in the country. You know?
Yeah, man.
Like I want to see guys fired the fuck up. You know, like I still remember the freaking even in my third whiteout, fourth whiteout, I still remember the butterflies at outfield walking out of that tunnel and the air in Beaver at that time, 7:30 at night. I mean, it is just different. The sound is different. The noise is different. Everybody's been waiting all day long to see the product. So there's just a different vibe to it. It's an incredible opportunity, not just for this team, but I just think for Penn State as a whole and the overall college football discourse to, really put to bed this Penn State can't win big games. Well, we've got 2 great freaking tests this year, that'll happen well before the playoffs. That'll give you a very good idea about what Penn State's going to bring to these big matchups. So, we come out of those 2 games with wins, we'll have one hell of a case to be the number 1, if not stay, the number 2 seed in the country.
Yeah, without a doubt.
It should be.
Without a doubt. I think kind of like what I was hitting on there at the end, I think it's a good way to close. It's just like you mentioned it early, this distribution of talent with the transfer portal, NIL, all this stuff, opportunity, playing time. You got to play, stay sharp, stay fresh, stay relevant. But like just looking at college football as a whole, I mean, love watching the Oklahoma-Michigan game late. Always don't mind seeing the team in blue and maize go down. But it's just funny seeing it what I was kind of hinting at about like taking care of business and how you handle business. There's certain programs that like always seem to do that.
Yeah.
No matter what the stage, no matter what the opponent. And like Dan Lanning's one of those guys. And that's why I said that that scares me if they have continuous momentum heading into this.
Yeah.
And why I think it's just integral for us. But I mean, what teams have you been seeing that you think up until this point could potentially rattle some cages, make some noise?
I mean, we've talked about them before, but Nebraska,
yeah.
I know we've talked about them, in the past, but I think Nebraska has a chance. A lot also based on schedule, but, based on a couple of the skill players they have too. And they got a real speedy running back that could be a problem. I think Washington is a dark horse. I think that dual threat quarterback they got over there is starting to figure things out. And then they have, the lead back of the conference from last year in Jonah Coleman, who is just continuing to do what he's been doing over these last couple of years. I think that's a team that's somewhat of a dark horse as well that could come out and be, better than we thought by the end of the year, as well as Nebraska, just because of their schedule and, some of the talent that they have, and obviously the quarterback in Raiola.
Yeah, I'm gonna go right to that Oklahoma team. I thought they looked really good on both sides of the ball. And Brent Venables is kind of on the hot seat. They haven't really achieved what they wanted to, especially for a program with that much history and that much hardware, really, in their building in some capacity. But I thought they looked really good. And that Michigan team's not a bad football team. I mean, you got a true freshman quarterback. There's always challenges with that.
Yeah.
But Oklahoma came out and made some plays. And like I said, I think they just played with a little bit more attention to detail than they have in the past few years.
Yeah.
Ole Miss, I think I watched a little bit of that game. Their quarterback's really talented, but a little bit turnover prone early. I think Lane's going to have to figure that out if Ole Miss wants to shock anybody at any point in time. But, I think the SEC is going to be fun to watch this year, just as much as the Big Ten. And obviously, those are I think the national champions coming out of one of those 2 conferences. That's not like a hot take, but it's just what it's been historically. So, be really curious to see who continues to develop.
Mississippi State was a little shout out too, I think.
Yeah, beating Arizona State
Yeah.
at home. Cowbell.
Arizona State. That's a good football team with a really good quarterback. I mean, that's a quarterback that's got a chance to be a first 3-round guy. Sam Levitt, really, really talented. And I really like their coach as well. Love his attitude. I've seen him in plenty of press conferences and some of his answers. That's a guy that's fired up that you can tell, make sure that his team is ready to go when it's time. And they're able to knock that number 12 team off. So just another team to keep an eye on. Mississippi State.
Yeah. Well, without a doubt, man. I mean, I'll leave you guys with this. For that bye week, State Media will not be stagnant. We are putting on an event for hot takes, Battle of the Houses. Going to have a bunch of frat boys filing into champs downtown. I'm going to be emceeing this. It's going to be fun. A little trivia night for $10,000. So that's coming up. Want to make sure that everyone's dialed in for that. If you're looking for a bye week activity, make sure you pop by champs. These guys, we got some trivia. Then we have some debate, which is going to be electric. I'm going to have to put on my best Will Ferrell disguise and style from old school. But it's going to be, I think that's going to be a great thing. And then obviously, we got to take care of business this week. But I think we're going to find out a lot about this football team here in the next month. So, as always, Jay and I will be back here every week, giving you our analysis, our takes, our this, or that. You can catch us on the Penn State pregame show too, if you're looking to dial in on game days. But we appreciate you guys tuning in, and we'll be back next week.
Yep. See y'all soon.